I can tell you the exact night I started counting her key in the lock. It was a Tuesday in late March, the kind that still bites after sundown in Sanpete County. The clock over the stove read 10:42. The girls, our two daughters, Ivy and Nora, had finally fallen asleep after turning homework into origami. A pot of elk stew cooled on the back burner, and the house smelled like cumin and comfort, and the kind of patience you don't brag about in public. Lena's key slid into the deadbolt, a sound I've always loved because it means we're all here. She came in on a March gust, cheeks bright, hair smelling like fryer oil and rosemary. She worked front desk and nights manager at the new market out on Highway 89, the one that thinks it's a city deli but sells feed sacks in the spring. She set a paper bag on the counter. "Leftover cinnamon knots," she said. "The bakery kids overproofed them." She was smiling, not the tired half-moon smile we'd lived on for 15 years, but a spring storm of a smile, electrical, sudden, careless with its own light. "You're late," I said, keeping my voice easy. We were about to send a search party. "Inventory," she said, already at the sink, rinsing her hands like she had to make them neutral before touching home. "We ran behind, and then Dean wanted to talk schedules, and the deli printer jammed, and—" I kissed her cheek. "Ivy's chorus night tomorrow. I'll swing by work at 5, trade cars, and get her there." "Perfect," she said, and took a cinnamon knot straight from the bag, breaking it into halves and then fourths, like she couldn't decide whether she was hungry or guilty. "That's marriage. You collect small data. You learn the weather of each other. For 15 years, our climate had been constant. 2 daughters, a mortgage the size of a tractor, church potlucks heavy with casseroles where Lena's were the first to go. She was reliable as Sunday. She could make soup out of a stubborn pantry and a birthday cake out of coupons. I build barns for a living, the kind people put weddings in when they want wood to look like a promise. We weren't fancy, but we were solid. And in rural Utah, solid is a way to say rich without starting a fight. Then the late night started. At first it was just Wednesdays, then Thursdays, then Mondays too, because trucks never check calendars. She came home smelling like coriander and fluorescent lights, talking about Dean more than she talked about the tomatoes, which is how I learned the name of the new store manager who arrived from Provo, with a haircut that tried too hard and a smile that tried less. Dean Keller, friendly. Shockingly tan for a man who lived under LEDs. "Dean says we could expand catering," she'd say, eyes bright. "Boxed lunches for the county offices. Stop by for samples tomorrow?" Dean wants to retile the entry. Chevron Caleb. He says it reads modern farmhouse, and I told him this town reads practical boots. We laughed. It showed up a lot. I'm not proud of this next part, but I won't lie. I started checking our phone plan's location pings. I told myself it was logistics. Who's closer to pick up Nora from piano if the teacher runs long? That kind of thing. The map dots told a story I didn't like. The deli, the back office. Twice. The Oxbow Cafe after closing late. The hour for last cups and first mistakes. I asked once, careful, "You doing okay with nights?" She didn't meet my eyes right away. "We're short-staffed," she said, and bit a smile that wanted to be bigger than the room. "It'll settle down. Hey, what if we get the girls bikes for spring?" This is the part where a smarter man would have set the question gently on the table and waited for it to stop rolling. I did what men in small towns do when things feel slippery. I fixed chores. I made sure the Suburban's oil didn't surprise us. I put fresh bats in the smoke detectors. I overcompensated with competence because love felt like a tool I didn't trust in my hands. 2 weeks later, I followed her. Not stealthy, our town isn't made for that. You can't tail someone around a feed silo without feeling like a clown. But I parked 2 blocks over and watched the Oxbow's windows cast yellow rectangles onto Main Street. Through the glass, I saw Lena at the corner table with Dean. He was laughing like he expected the heir to agree. She touched his forearm when she made a point. He let his hand rest on the tabletop too near to hers for the entire length of a song on the radio. Don't be stupid, I told myself. They're talking about inventory and the fact that cilantro and soap share a gene. I said it out loud and it still sounded like a lie told by a man who doesn't want to know. I didn't confront her that night. I drove home sick with the feeling that the floorboards had loosened under my boots. The next day I brought dinner to the market, a Dutch oven of pulled pork she could set in the deli case as staff meal. I told myself it was kindness. It was also the kind of territorial display a dog would be embarrassed by if dogs could read poetry. "Caleb," Dean said, surprised, stepping out from behind the slicer like a host on a game show. He stuck out a hand. "We keep your wife late and you feed us? That's backwards math." I shook his hand and decided to hate how warm and dry it was. "She feeds everybody," I said. "It's not personal." Lena shot me a look soft, warning, and then kissed my cheek in front of God and Dean and the olives. The kiss landed light. After that, I leaned into visibility. I stopped by accidentally with the girls. I signed up to deliver the Thursday night coffee urns to the market's community room. I texted Lena goofy photos of Nora practicing handstands down aisle 9. I was trying to remind the room that we existed. It didn't help. Lena's good mood when she came home slowed my heart in the wrong way. I knew her happiness's new recipe, girls laughing stupid, me finishing the porch screens before weather, and this was not one of ours. I told myself happy was better than secretive, and then I realized happy could be both. I finally said it plain on a Sunday after church, when the house still smelled faintly of funeral potatoes because Sister Red left us a pan just 'cause. "Are you and Dean?" I started, and had to lean both hands on the counter to steady the rest of the sentence. "Are you two something I should be worried about?" Her face did a hard thing, then softened. "Caleb," she said, "don't do this. I'm asking." "We work together," she said. "We talk. He listens. He tells me I'm good at this." "You are good at this," I said. "I know that without pretending to be impressed by chevron tile." "We laugh," she said. There it was again. The word doing too much. "He makes long nights feel short." "I do not," I said, and I hated how small that sounded. That should have been the counseling scene in a movie, where the music gets stringy and we promise big promises. Instead, we cleaned up lunch, drove Ivy to chorus, and sat through the parent meeting about fundraising for black skirts. Life doesn't pause so you can caption it. I tried other tactics. I went to HR. There is no HR in a county market the size of a rec hall. There's Brenda, who has done payroll since the 90s and keeps her nail file in a coffee mug that says, "Not today, Satan." Brenda's niece is married to Dean's cousin. Brenda said, "You need to talk to your wife, hon," and handed me a bag of day-old ciabatta. I wrote Dean a letter 3 lines, handwritten, asking for clear work boundaries and to stop meeting my wife off the clock. I didn't send it. It sat in my truck's glove box like a dare I wasn't proud of. I signed Lena and me up for the married couple cooking class in Ephraim. The night before, she texted, "Truck stuck, I'll be late. Take Ivy instead." Ivy and I whisked hollandaise like survivors. And then there were my girls. You think kids aren't watching because they're buried in devices. They are watching the room the way sailors watch the color of the water. Ivy, 14, went quieter. Nora, 10, went louder. Both, in their own way, stayed closer. The night things broke open began with hail. Spring on the Wasatch Front throws tantrums in marble-sized ice. The market lost power around 8. I texted, "Want me to come get you?" No answer. The storm moved off. I tried again. "All good?" Eventually, closing with flashlights. "Might be late." Heart emoji. I wish the emoji had breath I could smell. I drove over anyway. The lot was a glitter of hail pearls, muffled. Inside, a few staff clustered in the emergency light. I didn't see Lena. I knocked on the office door because I'm a fool for evidence. It was ajar. She was in there with Dean. They weren't touching. They were close enough that touch had almost finished thinking about itself. Their voices were low. His was the kind of soothing that wants credit for itself. Hers was the kind of nervous that thinks it can hide. I stepped back before seeing anything I couldn't unknow. At home, I sat on the couch and realized I had run out of distraction. The house looked like our house and felt like a set. I thought about calling my brother in Price, who would tell me to take a fishing weekend and talk it out. I thought about packing a bag. I thought about printing the letter to Dean and walking into the store with it like a man ready to be a story. Instead, I sat. The girls found me like that, hands slack, remote untouched. The room too quiet for a man whose daughter owns a recorder. Nora climbed into my lap without a word. Ivy stood in the doorway, measuring. "What's wrong?" Nora asked. "Your mom is," I began, and realized there isn't a sentence clear enough that doesn't use the wrong tool. I tried again. "I'm scared, Ami," I said, and I'm not good at saying I'm scared. Ivy came and sat on my other side. "Is it Dean?" she asked. Her voice didn't shake. That scared me more than the storm. Our kids had names for our things. "I don't know what it is," I said, "but I know what it's doing to me." The girls looked at each other the way sisters do, some private telegraph, and then looked at me. Ivy said, "We'll talk to her." Nora said, "We'll make a plan." I am not the kind of father who deputizes his kids to fix his marriage. But sometimes the people who love you stage an intervention without using the word. Their plan was so simple it embarrassed the adult strategies out of me. The girls collected evidence, the kind that matters. Ivy pulled photos from shoeboxes, not the glossy ones, but the Polaroids with bad thumbs and sun lines. Lena and me on our first cheap couch eating Chinese takeout. Lena 8 months pregnant and laughing because the watermelon slipped out of the grocery sack. Lena's cornbread on the cooling rack, the one that leans left and still wins the fair. Nora recorded a voice memo on my phone titled "Stuff Mom Did" and listed things like, "Came to my field day even when it rained," and "Left the porch light when I had a nightmare." They taped the photos along the hallway like a museum of reasons. They cued the audio on the kitchen speaker. Then Ivy wrote on the whiteboard, "Family meeting, no blame, just truth." Lena came home at 10:19, and when the hallway light flicked on, she stopped like a deer on a road that has never known cars. She saw herself at 27 holding a crock pot, and 29 falling asleep on a blanket at the fair, and 35 helping Nora build a volcano. She saw 15 years of ordinary devotion pinned up without commentary. "What is this?" she whispered. "Your life," Ivy said. She hit play on the speaker. Nora's voice filled the kitchen. "Stuff Mom Did." Innocent and devastating, a litany of unglamorous love. Halfway through, Lena pressed fingers to her eyes. By the end, she was shaking. I finally said the thing I'd been preparing for an argument instead of an offering. "I miss you," I said, "and I hate the man I become when I'm trying to keep you." She sank into a chair. She didn't deny. That was new. She said, "It's real." And there was relief in it, like confession lowering a fever. Dean and I let it get further than it should. He makes me feel seen, not just as the one who holds this family together, but as Lena who can run a schedule, in a store, and a life. "You are that," Ivy said, a little fierce, "but also Mom. Please be both here." Lena looked at our oldest as if someone had handed her a mirror that shows your best angles and your worst at the same time. "I haven't been fair," she said. "I haven't been honest. I told myself I could be two people if I kept moving fast." She turned to me. "I didn't mean to want him. I just stopped noticing the difference between being admired and being loved." I nodded because I knew the temptation in my own scale. If you build things, you fall in love with anyone who tells you you're indispensable. It's a song. "I set boundaries," Lena went on, and the words sounded flimsy in her mouth. "Then I ignored them. He didn't help. Of course he didn't." She laughed once, humorless. "I told myself I deserved a room where I didn't have to be Mom, and then I forgot you built me one." "Can we fix it?" Nora asked, because children think problems are like Lego. "We can try," Lena said. She looked at me. "If you still want to." I told her I did. I told her I wanted her, not just us. Then I said what I should have said 2 months ago. No more off the clock with him. And if he can't handle that, job or not, we choose us. She nodded. "I'll tell him tomorrow." She did. He didn't take it like a gentleman. He left a paper trail of pettiness, lousy shifts, sarcasm that curdled. When he moved a hand toward her elbow in the back office a week later, she stepped back and said, "No." The next day she went to corporate HR in Provo with printed schedules, the text threads that tried to be compliments, and a voice steadier than mine has ever been. HR listened. To my surprise, they acted. Dean went on, "Leave. In small towns, leave has a way of lengthening. Lena didn't last long at the market after that. She quit 2 weeks later, not because she was punished, but because being in a room that had looked the other way felt like sleeping on a stranger's pillow. We did some quick math and a deep breath and decided to let her rest before panicking. Rest looks like busier hands than you expect. She baked rolls, pies, those cinnamon knots on purpose this time, not because a kid overproofed them. The county fair was 3 months out. Ivy suggested we rent a booth. Lena rolled her eyes and then made a spreadsheet and then invented a rosemary sugar glaze that makes grown men reach for their wallets like children. We called it Blue Door Bakery because of the color we painted the pantry the week we decided to stay married out loud. We did counseling, real counseling, with a woman in Manti who never said who's right and only what's true. We learned ugly phrases like emotional affair and kind phrases like repair attempts. We put our phones on the mantle from 7 to 9 and called it sacred because otherwise we'd forget. I apologized for the way I made protection look like possession. She apologized for making me a stranger in rooms where I thought I lived. We fought, badly and then better. The girls watched, and in watching they learned the only lesson that matters about love. It isn't magic. It's work and mercy and showing up with your tools even when it's raining. Blue Door took off the way these stories always say they do and almost never do, slowly, then suddenly. A food blogger from Provo stopped by the fair and filmed Lena laughing with a veteran about the proper way to eat a cinnamon knot. There is no proper way. Orders followed. We rented the church kitchen on off days. We flirted with danger by putting down a deposit on a storefront that should have scared us more than it did. One night, as we argued about whether a mixer counted as an emergency, I caught the look on Lena's face. Tired, flour-dusted, and exactly the woman I married. "Do you ever miss it?" I asked. "The thrill?" She didn't pretend not to understand. "I miss feeling easy," she said, "but not enough to leave what's hard and right." She kissed me, then slow, sober, grateful. "You still count my key in the lock." "Sometimes," I admitted. She smiled. "Me too. Yours." Last month, we drove past the market on our way to the girls' school musical. The new manager stood out front, repainting the trim the color of a bruise. Lena squeezed my hand. "Do you think I should have stayed?" she asked, not fishing. Real. "I think you did the brave thing twice," I said. "Once when you walked in and once when you walked out." She looked at me the way she used to when we were first dumb in love and had no idea how much we'd have to learn. At the musical, Ivy hit the high note I'd watched her chase in the kitchen. Nora forgot a line and bowed anyway, the kind of recovery that will make her invincible. After, we took them for fries at the Oxbow, which still makes milkshakes that heal significant portions of a day. A waitress asked about Blue Door, and Nora told her too much, and Ivy told her exactly enough, and I told her to come early on Saturdays because old men with opinions about pie buy in stacks and pretend it's for their wives. On our way out, Lena touched my sleeve. "I'm sorry," she said again but new, "for leaving the room before I told you I was gone." "I'm sorry," I said, "for building a house and forgetting to light the windows." We walked to the truck under a sky that never learned subtlety. The girls were already arguing about whose playlist was worse. The night smelled like alfalfa and late frost and sugar. The key turned in the lock when we got home, and I counted it with my fingers on her wrist. Both of us smiling, because not everything you count is because you're afraid to lose it. Some things you count because you want to remember how they add up. If there's a lesson here, it's not cinematic. It's this. After 15 years, you will be tempted by any person or project that makes you feel shiny. That feeling will be real and untrustworthy. You will have to choose not once but all the time. Your daughters will see you choose and learn whether love is a noun you claim or a verb you practice. If you're lucky, they'll call a meeting in your kitchen and remind you that evidence worth saving is rarely a text thread. It's a voice saying, "Stuff Mom did," and a hallway full of photographs taped up by people who hope you come home. We did. We do. Every night we can. And sometimes we fall asleep to the sound of dough rising and a new plan cooling and the softest thing I know, a key turning.